Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Tutti, the 2020 LGBA conference. We hope you're excited to share the weekend together as we renew our community, listen to some great ideas from our presenters, and have a bit of musical fun. Before we begin, I want to send special thanks to our friends in Rose City Pride Bands. Had the COVID-19 crisis not developed, we would be joining with them in Portland this weekend to celebrate their 30th birthday. Their team spent 3 years planning for the conference, which would have included a gala swing band concert, a wind ensemble performance with the Portland Gay Men's Chorus, and the premiere of a new work during an amazing wind symphony concert. To the conference chair, Denny Richard, and all the Rose City team, thanks from everyone across the association for all the work you put into planning for building bridges. We hope we can gather again in the Bridge City soon. The planning for Tutti began in April and involved everything from sourcing the right affordable technology to putting out a call for speakers to preparing to conduct our association business online. Putting all the elements together in less than 4 months was a daunting challenge, especially for volunteers who all had their regular jobs and the changes brought about by the virus to deal with. We will introduce all the people who made today possible in the next segment, and they deserve your thanks. This is the first time the board has attempted to produce a conference in a long time, and there certainly has been a fast learning curve. With this limitation of time, most of the speakers during our event have come from within our own circle, and, like all circles, it has a definite radius. While we have a great wealth of talent within our association and appreciate greatly all who are giving their time and talent today, we realize that we are missing voices that should also be raised when we gather as our alphabet family. In the next year, the board plans to use what we have learned from Tutti Conference to host more opportunities to gather together. We're planning a speaker program in the coming months that will include those voices and speak to our broader diversity and inclusion. As we announce that program, we welcome your input for topics and speakers. Now it's time for Tutti to begin. We have an exciting agenda today with topics sure to interest you as a performer, a leader in your band, an artistic director, or someone who just enjoys learning something new. Let's share some ideas and delight in seeing each other again. I hope you have dusted off that instrument because our friends from the Lesbian and Gay Big Apple Corps are ready to lead us in some fun tunes to cap off our day in the Big Apple way. Let me hand the presenting baton to Kevin Taylor, our Tutti Conference Chair. Kevin has kept our committee on task over the last several months to make sure we have everything in place for a wonderful day together. I will look forward to seeing you in the workshops and at the end of the day. Take it away, Kevin!
Hello, and welcome to our little show. I'm Kevin Taylor, member of the Houston Pride Band, the LGBT Board of Directors, and the chair for the Tutti 2020 Conference Committee. Try saying that 3 times fast. We are very excited that so many of you have taken the time to join us and hope you'll find the day informative and fun. Before we get started, I want to give a huge thanks to the conference committee for their working so hard to pull all of this together. In these very troubled and disorienting times, these folks focused and put a lot of time and energy to make this happen in short order. Please give them a round of applause, even if they can't hear you from where you are. Also, give a big round of virtual applause to our presenters, who have put together some great content to help us through these trying times and into the future. I know they can feel your love across the internet. Now, for a few words about the structure of the day. As you have probably seen, the conference is broken down into multiple sessions. It's usually around a workshop or a forum or presentation, but there could be some other fun stuff added in as well. When a session ends, other than one of the Zoom sessions, you should see a pop-up in the lower left-hand corner. That pop-up will have a link that will take you back to the schedule page where you'll be able to go to any of the next sessions. Yesterday, you should have also received a schedule of the day. The great thing about the schedule is that you can also link to any session from there. It's a good idea to have that up on your computer somewhere just in case. Even though there are often multiple things going on, don't worry about missing anything because they are all being recorded and will be available to view afterwards. couple of notes about the online rehearsal demo at the end of the day, hosted by the New York Big Apple Corps. Yesterday, you should have also gotten the information about where to find the music and how to join in. Remember that it is participatory, so pull out your instruments and play along. I attended one of the rehearsals a few weeks ago, and it may not replace the feeling of an in-person rehearsal, but I was very surprised at how I truly felt a rehearsal's sense of community and purpose. I think you'll feel that as well. There are a number of ways to participate during the day. Within the big marker, there is a chat and question areas. We will be monitoring those throughout the day, and it's also how you can share experiences and ask questions of the presenters. If you see someone has already asked the question you wanted to, you can vote it up, make sure it gets there, gets seen, and avoid moderators wading through duplicate questions. You can also use the LGBA Facebook group to post ideas, greetings, feelings, whatever you like. Lastly, I hope that you'll bear with us as we haven't really done anything like this before. There may be a few hiccups now and then, but with your patience, we'll get through this together. And now, on with the show. Next up, LGBA board member, Derek Johnson.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Tutti 2020. Now's an opportunity to bring everyone together around a common goal, stretch your creativity and mind, and have a little fun. So, it's time for Ligba's scavenger hunt. You'll have 5 minutes to search around your remote location for 4 items representing the letters of Ligba. Item 1, love. I found this in my home. It's a picture of my past dog, who I very much loved. Item 2, glory. Anyone knows me? I'm a Gator. Glory days. Item number 3, it's going to be breakthrough. I chose this Rubik's Cube because I have not yet broken through the combination and the sequence in finding the right way of making this correct. And item number 4 is going to be acceptance. My Be True shoes. Love them. They're my pride shoes every year. So now, once you find your items, make sure you take a picture of yourself with them and post them to our Ligbuzz Facebook group. Make sure you tag to hashtag Tutti or Tutti 2020 when you post to Facebook. And with that, let's get started, and you're off to the races. We're slowly approaching the 3-minute mark here. So don't forget item number 1, love. Item number 2, glory. Item number 3 is breakthrough. And item number 4 is acceptance. With only 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes left, again, item number 1 is love. Item number 2, glory. Item number 3, breakthrough. And item number 4, acceptance. One minute left. Twenty more seconds. And we're 10. Awesome. Well, that should conclude today's scavenger hunt. If you didn't have time to find your items, don't worry. You have all day, and we have breaks throughout today's virtual conference or experience. So make sure, again, take a picture of you with your items, go to Ligba's Facebook group, post it there, and make sure you tag Tutti, #Tutti 2020. Now, up next, committee member David Doan.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay, great. So sorry about that technical difficulty. Anyway, let's get to it. Good afternoon and good morning on the West Coast. I have the pleasure of introducing to all of you my friend, Kylie Fortissimos, who I admire personally and musically. Kylie earned her Bachelor in Music and Performance from the University of North Florida and Master of Music in Performance with merit from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, England. She currently teaches flute to select students as the owner of the Tampa Flute Studio. Kylie is the creator of Flute is a Drag and has her own YouTube channel. As a professional flutist, Kylie has performed around the world at numerous prestigious venues, and she is regarded as, and I quote, the whole package with a clear, sparkling sound and a vibrancy in all registers. Finally, Kylie has collaborated with award-winning composers to commission and premiere and record new works for the flute, as well as write her own works and transcriptions for flute and various ensembles. What you will now hear is Kylie's message of LGBTQ plus community in music, drag and music, a journey of her personal life, peppered with difficult childhood experiences to being a queer professional musician. You will hear how music has literally saved her life and how she was able to find her unique voice. She will also share her personal message of inclusion and living an authentic self. I invite you to listen to her message, and then we'll connect with her alter ego on the other side with a live Q&A with Taylor Ireland.
Well, hello there. Fancy seeing you here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good salutations. I am thrilled to be here with LGBA Tutti 2020 virtual conference. It is my honor to be here today to speak with all of you. My name is Kylie Fortissimo. I am the drag alter ego of Taylor Ireland. We will talk about her later. For now, the floor is mine. So sit back, relax, grab a cocktail, enjoy the party. We're here to talk about some important things and some fun things that have to do with the LGBT community and music, my favorite thing. So let's get started. So I wanted to start out with bringing you guys into one of my mantras. If you watch Dragula, if you have not seen Dragula, highly encourage it. Totally different. So there is a saying that they say at the judgment, we are not here to judge your drag. Drag is art and art is subjective. What we are judging you on is your drag as it relates to this competition and the challenges we put before you. So I twisted that around a little bit and I have turned that into my personal music mantra. We are not here to judge your music. Music is art and art is subjective. Your art and your music is valid. And that is just opening the door to how drag has not only changed my life as a queer person, but as a professional musician. When we're thinking about music, I feel like the one thing that we can relate to very closely to drag is this idea of us being cover artists, right? So in music, I always say we are glorified cover artists. We are regurgitating pieces of music, some of them hundreds of years old. So, and then if you're thinking about drag, we are lip syncing songs that are not ours. And I'm tired of it, to be completely perfectly honest, however. And this is where I started to really think about some of the things that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So, when you think about cover artists, yeah, it's cool. You know, cover artists are wonderful if you're at the pub and, you know, there's a little live band and they play, you know, Britney Spears Toxic and you're like, yes, queen. Mm-hmm. Oh, the taste of it. Yeah, that is fun. And that sort of cover artist, yeah, I can dig it. I can dig it. However, you know, what musicians and artists inspire you? Probably people who write their own music, right? Then think about people in the classical world who are writing their own music that inspire us. Think about drag queens that write their own music. Let's be honest, some of those Rue girls are awful. If it weren't for auto-tune and amazing producers, those songs would not exist. However, we still listen to them. I'll be the first to say, I am a degreed musician and I'm still bopping to it. And here's the important part. Why am I bopping to it? It's not because of quality of content. It is because it is relatable content to me. When they're talking about, drag, being gay, being queer, being feminine, putting on your nails and lashes, I relate to it. I get it. It is something that no mainstream artist is singing about. So of course I'm going to listen to and download that album. So we can do the same thing in our network. And this is where I want to start to challenge you guys to think about how we have evolved, or rather not evolved, as classical musicians. So, you think back when Bach, Mozart, all those people, all dead white guys, right? They were improvising, they were writing their own music. They weren't just regurgitating, they weren't these cover artists. And there is this ideology of contemporary music is this avant-garde, strange thing that is not palatable by the audience. And I highly, highly disagree with that statement because we have trained them to do so. So I want to take you on a little journey now about my growing up and how I got to this point now. I grew up in New Mexico, was born and raised right on the border of Texas and Mexico in Las Cruces. Shout out to Las Cruces if you're around there. I'm sorry, get the heck out of there. So as you can imagine, life was grand for a short, skinny, feminine boy in the Bible Belt. Just grand, not. So my family didn't really accept it. Of course, the people around me didn't accept it. There were maybe a handful of people that came out before I did, although I always say I did not have the pleasure of coming out. If some of you relate to that, some of us were just so flamboyantly feminine, or in the other case, maybe very butch if you're a woman, that you didn't have the choice. You were already being called all the things that you did not want to be, and you finally were just like, yep, I am. There was no coming out. There was no shock. There was nobody, oh, gasp, you're gay? What? So, and I did that at a very young age still. I was gay bashed in high school. I've been gay bashed in my adult life. It has not been an easy walk down the street to be who I am publicly. And I've always struggled with that. So how did I cope? I did what many of us try to do, and I tried to straight wash myself. I tried to be butch. I tried to be masculine, tried to be mask for mask, hashtag. And it did not work. First of all, I wasn't fooling anybody. Second of all, it was very self-deprecating. I was denying who I was. I was telling myself that I was not beautiful, that I was not worthy, that who I was to my core was wrong, that there was something wrong with me. And I struggled, like many of us in the LGBTQ plus community, with depression and suicidal thoughts. I tried to take my life on numerous occasions. And what really saved me, and this sounds so cliche, but it's so true, is music. In the band world, there's always been this sort of tribe of differentness, right? Being the band nerd, the band geek. I found my place. It was one of the first spots. I remember one of my best friends became the first male cheerleader at our high school, which was huge. And, he was gay like I was, one of the first ones to come out. But one of the places where there were still, it was not a first for guys to be in, was like the color guard and other things. Gosh, being in marching bands, getting to wear a uniform, having choreography, all of that, there was a little bit of performance in there, and I was digging it. And most importantly is I found people that accepted me for who I was. One of the most important people that accepted me for who I was my first flute teacher. And I didn't come out to her. She just sort of had a lesson with me one day and asked me if I had a boyfriend. And I was like, why would I have a boyfriend? I don't know what you're talking about. And she knew, and she was like, okay, are you ready? Are you not ready to talk about it? And, you know, oftentimes I talk to people about not assuming. However, don't jump on the bandwagon. I know she made that assumption. However, I needed it. I needed somebody to say verbally, because I don't think I could have come out to an adult at that time. So it really was the best thing for me. And while they were not out at the time, my band director and assistant band director were both very gay. And we all kind of wondered, but at the time, I mean, people were not out, especially in the teaching profession, right? You know, it was deemed unprofessional. And you hid that aspect of your life. It didn't matter. You know, people in your close circles knew. And I've talked to them about it since, and they are now very openly out, and times have changed. I know I look very young, but I mean, this is like late 90s we're talking about here. But at that time, I didn't really have any role models or anything. So I fast forward, go to college, and I go to my first gay bar, and I see my first drag show. And for the first time in my life, I see flamboyancy and femininity in men not only accepted, but celebrated. And I was hooked. I was like, wait, you're telling me that this thing that I have been made fun of my entire life, people are getting cheered for and making dollars for? What? Sign me up. So here I was, this little gay boy in Texas. That was where I first went to school. So good old Lubbock, Texas, in still the Bible Belt, and Kylie was born. Now, it has been quite a journey. She did not always look like this, but fast forward another million years, and I had teachers in my undergrad and graduate school that were telling me, like, oh my God, they found out I did drag. My friends told them, or we talk about it at flute nights or whatnot, and they'd be like, oh my God, show us pictures. And my teachers were like, oh my gosh, you need to combine this with flute somehow. Like, it's a performance, right? You need to be combining it. And I was like, never. I'm trying to be a professional musician, and the last thing I need is to be blacklisted or judged or deemed unprofessional in some sort of way, or seen as I have a shtick or a gimmick trying to get me to the top. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cut my career off before it's even started. So that was my opinion for probably a good 10 years before I finally got the cojones to drop this into the professional music world. Talk about liberating. And what started me to do this was because I have some very good friends that had some really unfortunate things happen to them in the music community regarding their queerness. A good friend of mine that dropped out after her master's at Cincinnati Conservatory as a performance major in another instrument, not flute. I won't say what, because keep her story safe. And she was starting to transition, and she was shunned from this music world because of who she was. You know, this is not talking about drag, this is who somebody identifies as. And she's transitioning and trying to live her authentic life. She ended up having to sell her instrument to pay for her surgery, and she's a beautiful entertainer, but like many trans people, she gave up this normal career life, which she was very talented for and cut out for, to now all she does is drag. And what's unfortunate is that's not what she wants to do. She would have loved to pursue her passions in music. I have had friends that have been fired or lost jobs because they were deemed being too gay, too visibly gay. It's okay if you're gay, but not if you show it. So that brings me to this idea that we sort of have in this current movement that we're in. We are doing so much better, and the world is doing so much better, and we are thankfully having many things that are coming to fruition for our rights and for our visibility. However, the thing I want us to think about is the difference between tokenism and inclusion, because right now we are still tokens. We are still that gay person. Yeah, I have somebody gay on faculty. I have somebody gay in my ensemble. I have somebody gay in my orchestra. Yeah, I know a gay person. I'm not homophobic. However, how much content do we actually have in the music world that is queer? How much queer content have you seen at a convention that isn't this convention? How much content have you seen that is queer that is at a concert? How much content have you seen that is in regards to even within your own organizations? How much content are you programming? Because I realize in my own that by being a queer person, and especially starting to become this advocate for our community, that I was being hypocritical by not posting and creating content that was authentically queer and using queer artists. Because if I am performing works by people, even if, I was like, yeah, I'm programming works that are women, people of color, and all of that, great, still keep doing that. But how much of what I was programming was actually about my experience, about my life? Was I using queer composers who wrote about queer things, or was I just programming Copland's because he was gay? Was I just programming Bernstein because he was gay? That's tokenism. That is not giving queer culture visibility, because they were straightwashing themselves, right? They were trying to fit in to the heteronormative functions of their current society. But in our society, we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our generations after us to not do that, to start programming stuff. I liken it to, it's not good enough to program a person of color symphony number 2, right? It's a totally different experience to program a person of color writing something on their feelings about George Floyd. That is an authentic feeling into the world of a person of color. That is transporting your performers and your audience into this environment, into this life. You are making their stories heard. And that is the kind of content that I think we need to be creating and programming. For example, I am a soloist, and I travel, thankfully, gratefully, around the country, and I perform it around the world as a flutist. And I finally started using some of these ideas when people would ask me to book me. And I would say, you know what? I have a fantastic friend of mine who has written a concerto for me, specifically, that has to do with queer culture. Fantastic, fantastic concerto, which still to this day has not been premiered, that all these directors are like, no, can you just do, Jolivet? Can you just do Bach Orchestral Suite? Can you just do this? Because I don't know, this is always the excuse, I don't know how our audience will receive that kind of performance. I have said, great, I have now started performing in drag. How would you feel about me performing and programming a work specifically written for drag queen and orchestra, or drag queen and ensemble? So that is what I think my personal call to action has been for the last year or two. And I kind of thought that I would talk to you all about that, and maybe get your own sort of brains spinning around this idea of tokenism versus inclusion. What brings me full circle is what makes me, I believe, a wonderful flute player and a different flute player is not because of all of the hours I spent in the practice room. Not that that didn't help, but I have something different to show than someone else next to me, right? If you wanted to hear a great flute player, you could throw out a dime and hit a dozen of them because there's a lot of us. However, what makes me different is my experience and how I put that into my music and my performances and my programming and the journey that I take you on as an audience. And I've always been a bit eccentric with my programming, not gonna lie. I have had programming about, of course, romantic things, about mermaids, other things. I would still come out as a boy in a sequin jacket, rhinestone shoes, and you name it. And that's kind of what I think helps me get on the map as a composer and being somebody different. But I realized I still wasn't being authentically true to myself because I wasn't really opening up and coming out to the audience. And until we start to accept it ourselves, how do we expect an audience to accept it? So here's my thoughts when I think about concerts and what I believe I would like to change in my ensembles and in the organizations that I work with. Is we've talked about dress codes. You know, there's this idea of, yes, we don't want to look unprofessional and not be in tuxedos and all black and this and that, but how do our dress codes make people feel within our ensembles, especially if we're a queer ensemble? You know, are there people that have uncomfortable feelings, that don't know where their gender lies? Then it goes into, are there people that have discomfort with how they, you know, the construct of this formality of music? So I have started this thing, but this started years ago, where I started doing some concerts where I wasn't even dressed up, because it kind of opened up this idea of casualness, of less elitism for my audience members. And it made me feel really uncomfortable because I was like, oh, I'm going to be seen as so unprofessional, right? But it opened them up to me in a different way. And then I realized this opens up a different door to my audience. There's people in the audience that could be struggling inside, and they see this and it makes their day better, whether they're queer, straight, whoever. If it brings a smile to their face, it brings them in. And that is how I decided to become Kylie in the professional world. And I have to say, it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done. It was being my true, authentic self, and nothing is better in the eyes of a patron or an audience member or a fan than to see that authenticity and to see your journey, to see your struggles, to open up those wounds, to make things uncomfortable, but then also to make them laugh, to make them forget about the position that we're in. We are in a crazy, crazy time right now. We're in a crazy mad world, right? And the only way that I can see classical music surviving is if we stop becoming these glorified cover artists. We get rid of the elitism. We get rid of the whitewashing and straightwashing in our own communities. And we start to be open about our own experiences. We start sharing them through our words, through our programming, through our writing. If there's anything, a call to action that I could give to each and every one of you, write a piece. If you have never written anything before, no one has to hear it, Lord knows, but start writing. I feel like writing music is like journaling. I make all my students write music and improvise and all that because there's this feeling, you know, you're in music because you love it, right? Something has brought you to this. And it's one thing to express through the eyes of another composer and bring their vision to life, but are you bringing your own visions to life? You know, it's kind of like in the drag world, are you doing Snatch Game? Are you doing impersonation? Or are you building your own character? Are you building your own persona? Because guess what? I guarantee you everyone is gonna love your own persona a million times more because you are special, you are beautiful, you have a unique story that nobody else in this entire freaking planet has, right? And that is what is going to intrigue people. That is what's going to bring people's butts back into those seats for classical music. Not because you are programming Beethoven or Holst or whoever. It is going to be because they have a personal connection to somebody on that stage. And you have to open that door. And I will be the first to say that it has taken me almost 20 years of my adult life to get past this fear of vulnerability. So I'm not saying that you need to be, we all need to be, have this perfect by next year or anything like that. But I think we should try to start opening the doors to letting people in. And I think that's one of the things that makes these organizations so great. What I would have done to have known or seen an LGBT group in my vicinity growing up, to have some gay role models in the music community, I realized that there's still this idea and this perception in the music world that we have to be professional, as if being gay is unprofessional, as if being queer is unprofessional, as if being yourself is unprofessional, which is not the case. You can be professional like this, and sure as heck, you can be unprofessional as a white hetero man. We all know it, right? So I'll leave you with this. You know, if you were to be on RuPaul's Drag Race and get to that part in this season where Ru holds up that picture of you as a 5-year-old and says, what would you say to your 5-year-old self? And just think about that for a moment. What would you say to your 5-year-old self? May you go on, may you be safe, may you create, may you just explode your queer content all over this freaking planet. And if you do, please send it to me. I love nothing more. May you all have a beautiful and safe COVID-19. Stay indoors, wear your mask, rhinestone it, stud it, whatever you want. Put a leather one on. I don't know, you kinky bitch. Anyways, love you all. Bye-bye, take care. Hello, everybody. Let's see if David comes on. I'm the alter ego of Kylie. Hope you enjoyed the video.
Hey Taylor, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are you? Oh, I can hear you. Perfect.
Oh, good. Hey Nicole and Cliff, do you want to hop on? Well, I start with some Q&A. Well, I've just been scanning the chat. Lots of people love the video. Lots of people admire your courage and just your experiences sharing. I want to ask you a question before Nicole and Cliff hop on. So as you know, we are a community of bands, and our bands live in numerous cities and small cities, big cities across the country, but literally across the world as well. How do you, as a queer professional musician, what do you do in your part to raise awareness of these member bands, if you were to ask to do so, and also our mission when you're perhaps teaching students at various age groups in your own community?
That's a loaded question, but I think that, first of all, one of the things that I have really learned over the past just few years is this idea of authenticity, as cliche as it sounds. But I have found that really being as a musician and a business owner, being very out and proud in the community, really not being vague about my platform and who I am as a person. And that has really opened the doors. And what's been amazing about that is, I was so afraid of the backlash or anything like that. And I'm sure there is some of that. But what I try to focus on is a lot of people have come to me because we don't have necessarily a lot of people in the community that are very visible. And so they've come to me asking me, is there a group that I could play in? Is there an organization that I can join with people like me? I've had students come out to me just for the fact, I actually just had a student very coincidentally this week come out to me as trans. And he said, he was like, Mr. Taylor, you're always saying how this is an open and safe environment, and I have something I want to talk about. And to me, that has just really opened the door. So I think that being open and visible, and again, this idea of not worrying about your sexuality being unprofessional is a huge deal, so.
That's helpful. Awesome. I'm going to squeeze in one more question. I know we kind of over time. You are a professional musicians. Many of us, or most of us, are non-professional musicians and may be reluctant to pick up an instrument and join a community band. What would you say to those people to get their courage up?
I think this is an amazing question because I, as a teacher, especially, I'm always telling my students, I do not want to teach you to be a professional musician. I want to teach you to love music. And music was transformative in my life, as I said in the video, and really saved my life. But I think more than anything is to think about it as a love. I love the analogy of thinking of music as an art form like painting. So if you were painting in high school, middle school, would you suddenly just stop doing it in college because you didn't major in art? And usually people are like, well, no, if I enjoyed it, why would I stop? And that's really what I think that is important to carry on. And I think community bands and organizations are imperative to that. And, a lot of people that I know, it's not about this sort of elitism. There's no competitiveness usually. And it's all about people coming together that have a like interest. And there's this idea of a tribe. And I know from experience that these community organizations have people that are like, could have gone on professionally if they wanted to, all the way down to, I picked up an instrument 3 weeks ago and I can't play Mary Had a Little Lamb yet, but I'm eager, how can I help? What can I do? And I think that's extremely important in finding your tribe, finding that. I usually find, and my biggest recommendation to people is go to a couple rehearsals. Usually these organizations are open, and usually by then you're hooked. I think that the fear is stepping in that first rehearsal, being new. And my experience and everyone I know's experience, especially with organizations within LGBA that I know some of the ensembles, you go in one rehearsal and you're just overwhelmed with the amount of love and acceptance and all of that. And it doesn't matter how you play or who you are.
Love that. Well, so inspirational. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a feeling that LGBA and you and Kylie will have a great relationship moving forward. So appreciate your time today. Sorry everyone for being delayed. Just want to let you know we have 3 sessions going on right now. Making Music as Meditation will be on this room. And then we also have the LGBA Presidents Forum and Autistic Directors Forum. Have a fantastic day today. Thank you so much, Taylor and
Thank you all for having me.
Love you.
Thank you. Be safe, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.